Last time, Noah was standing at the door of an ark that had never floated. Today, the water came. The water went, and Noah is still here. But something is different. Please welcome back, Noah. It's good to see you again.
And you.
Tell me about the flood. What was it like when it actually began?
I do not think human language was made for things that large. We built the ark. We knew judgment was coming. But when it began, nothing prepares you for it. The ground opened first. The fountains of the great deep burst open beneath us. Water came from places no one had ever seen water come from. The earth itself felt like it was tearing apart. And then the sky opened. The heavens became something terrifying. Water fell with a violence no one alive had words for. Water from above, water from below, and the sound. I still hear the sound.
The world had never seen anything like that before.
No, at first the water rose slowly. Then entire fields disappeared. Villages vanished. Hills sank beneath the gray. And one morning you realize there is no world anymore, only water.
What about inside? How was it?
The sound of water against wood never stopped. Animals, 8 people, 150 days of water. You learn how small human beings really are. And you learn what faith means, because there were moments when the only thing holding us together was the knowledge that God Himself had put us there.
How long were you inside in total?
More than a year. The rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights. But the waters covered the earth for 150 days. The ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, but we couldn't see any other land for another 2 months after that. That was the first time we saw mountaintops since the flood began. Then the birds, then we waited again. After about 220 days inside, the water had dried enough from the surface that I could remove the covering of the ark and look out. But the earth was still not firm enough to leave, so we waited. Another 2 months, just over a year total from the day the rain began. God spoke. He said, "Come out," and we came out. We did not leave before He said to leave. The same God who closed the door was the one who opened it.
Tell me about the birds.
The raven first. We were on the mountain by then. The ark had come to rest, but the world below us was still covered. I sent the raven out. It kept flying back and forth, going out, returning, going out again. It never settled. A raven can survive where death still lingers. It can feed on what floats, but it brought back nothing. It told me nothing about whether the world below was habitable again, so I sent the dove.
So what happened?
A dove needs ground, clean ground, living vegetation. She would only stay out there if the world below was becoming habitable again. The first time, she came back with nothing. The waters were still too high in the valleys. I reached out and brought her back in. 7 days later, I sent her out again. And this time she returned with an olive leaf in her beak. I held that branch, and suddenly the future felt possible again. Something was alive out there, down in the valleys, an olive tree, living, growing. 7 more days, and she did not return. She had found where she belonged.
What was it like stepping off the ark?
Strange, profoundly strange. The ground felt unfamiliar beneath my feet, like I was learning how to stand again. And the silence. After months of water, animals, wind, creaking wood, silence. And then you realize there is no one else. No voices, no distant fires, no cities, just us. The whole earth, and just us.
The first thing you did was build an altar.
Of course, what else do you do after God carries you through the death of a world? You offer the clean animals. That is why there were 7 pairs. I did not want the first act of the new world to be about survival. It had to be worship.
And then came the covenant, the rainbow.
He spoke to us. He said, never again. Never again would waters destroy all life. Never again would a flood cover the earth. And then he placed a bow in the clouds, a sign. And he said that when he sees it, he will remember his covenant. I still do not fully understand that, but I receive it gladly.
You planted a vineyard after that?
Yes.
And then something happened.
Yes.
Tell me.
I drank from the wine, too much. I was uncovered in my tent, and Ham saw me. But the deepest shame was not that he saw, it was what he did after. He went outside and told his brothers. He turned my weakness into something to spread, something to expose.
And Shem and Japheth?
They took a garment and walked backward into the tent. They covered me without looking. That is honor. They protected what should have been protected. Ham did not. What he did was mockery, barbarous pride, turning a father's shame into something to carry outside the tent.
What was the sin exactly?
In any world where honor still means something, when you encounter shame, you cover it. You do not delight in it. You do not parade it. Ham uncovered what should have been covered.
And you cursed Canaan, Ham's son. Not Ham. Why?
I have asked myself that. I woke up, I was clear, and the words came. I spoke what came to me to speak. Whether I understood it fully in that moment, I did not. I still do not. But I have learned that when God moves through a man, the man does not always see what God sees. He sees further. He always has.
Do you regret the wine?
Yes, I survived the collapse of the world. God preserved me when humanity drowned. And I stumbled alone in my own tent over something I planted with my own hands. The man who built an ark by faith fell in the quiet. That is difficult to live with. The flood drowned the world, but it did not drown sin. 8 people came off that ark, and the problem came with us. Only God can fix what is broken in man.
The ark carried 8 people through judgment into a new world, but that is not the end of the story. One day, people will pass through judgment into new life, and that day they will not be carried by a wooden boat. They will be carried by someone who suffered the judgment for them. The ark points further than you can see from here, Noah.
That's what I hope.
There is a pattern running through the Bible. A human being exposed, ashamed, trying to cover themselves. Adam and Eve, Noah. Again and again humanity is uncovered, and again someone must provide a covering. Isaiah speaks of garments of salvation and robes of righteousness. Zechariah sees filthy garments removed and clean ones placed in their stead. Paul writes that those who belong to Christ are clothed with Christ himself. The Bible keeps returning to the same truth. Human beings cannot cover themselves. Matthew Henry once wrote that the best of men are but men at their best. Noah survived the flood, but he could not save himself from himself. And maybe that is the point. Maybe the story was never about a righteous man saving the world. Maybe it was about humanity waiting for someone better than the best man. Someone who would not merely survive judgment, but bear it. Someone who would not expose shame, but cover it completely. Next time, humanity gathers again, this time to reach heaven on its own terms. Babel rises, and after the confusion, God calls one man by name. Abram joins us next. Subscribe and come back.